Welcome again to International Love Story. I'm so happy that you're watching today and that you're listening to today's podcast because today I have a very special guest who is also from Germany, but she was brave to move to Namibia last year. So a completely other culture for her. And obviously there's a whole background story we're going to get into a little bit further, a little bit deeper. But before we go ahead, I'd like to welcome Janine in Namibia right now. And Janine, everyone who's seeing you for the first time, who's listening to you for the first time, who are you? What are you doing? Tell us all about you.
Okay, we'll try to make this as short as possible. So I'm Janine. I'm 24 years old. Like you said, I am from Germany. And yeah, last year in September, so roughly 4 months ago, I moved abroad. Like I packed all my suitcases, well, which includes two,
Mhm.
my two suitcases, and moved to Namibia to live with my boyfriend, who was born and raised here. And yeah, now we're living here together after we've been in a long distance relationship for almost 4 years. And yes, so back in Germany, I studied architecture. That was my big dream for a very long time. And yeah, kind of we started dating, and shortly after that I started studying, so it was kind of clear that I will first finish my bachelor's degree, and from there on we will see what will happen. And yeah, so now I'm here, not allowed to work yet because I don't have my work visa, so waiting for now. But yeah, very happy that I actually took that step and that I'm here now.
That you were able to close the distance and move forward
Yes,
from there
finally.
now. Yeah.
Yeah,
For how long have you been dating now?
almost 4 years. Like on the 25th of January, it's 4 years.
That's so crazy. And if you summarize like, or if you would summarize the last 4 years, like thinking back, what were the biggest hurdles and the biggest challenges, and the most beautiful moments as well?
Um, yeah, like the biggest challenges is definitely the distance. Like,
Mhm.
I guess like everyone who is or was in a long distance relationship can agree, because that is like you can't just jump, or like jump into your car, drive for an hour or two, which is also already a long distance relationship. But for me, if I like heard my friends back in Germany kind of complaining that the boyfriend
Mhm.
or the girlfriend lives just in a different town, like an hour away, where I thought like, well, you're actually so lucky. I need to jump on a plane and fly for 10 hours at least, which is not as easy. So that
Mhm.
definitely. And I think like, especially in the beginning, kind of learning how to communicate, I think that is actually was one of the biggest challenges, because if you are getting to know someone in your mother language, it's not hard. You understand each other. You know that the other person can understand you and knows what what they mean. But like if it's both parts, not mother language, like mine is German, his is Afrikaans, so
Mhm.
we definitely still make mistakes, and kind of because you're still mostly texting throughout the day. Like that was in our relationship, so we texted most of the time. Of course we also called each other, but throughout the day it's easier to text, like while I was in university or while he was at work. There is like a lot of misunderstandings. You
Yeah.
can misunderstand something very easily. And but the nicest things in the past 4 years, or like the best, yeah, like how do you say it, the best memory so far was definitely, for me it was always the, like when you just meet again, like at the airport, when you just can hug each other again, when when you left all those kilometers behind you and can just enjoy the time together. Yeah, like for me also, the longest time that we haven't seen each other was 9 months in the past year. So I left in January 2021 to go back, finish my bachelor's degree. So we knew I won't come back for quite a long time. So after those 9 months, finally getting there, when those doors opened, I was so relieved that I am finally here in Namibia. And so I think like in all those 4 years, that was the biggest, or like the memory I will forever kind of cherish and think back to.
Yeah, it's crazy that you think back and you still exactly know how you felt in that very moment. And I guess if you would close your eyes and you think back, it's like you're still there, because it's an incredible and very, very, very emotional moment. Especially, I don't know, how was it for you when you got into the plane and you had to say goodbye to your family before? Like, were you able to realize what's going on and what your future will look like? Or when did you realize that you're actually making a big, big step right now?
I think at the airport, kind of greeting the family, saying goodbye to the family was already like a point of realization that something is gonna change. But it was still kind of like in the past 4 years, I don't know how many times I was standing at that airport, kind of leaving Germany, but you always know I'm coming back. And I actually like already have, or like even back then had a flight booked back to Germany, because I still had like one flight left from all the past 2 years, what was happening with like all the rescheduling and stuff. So it was still kind of okay, like I am leaving Germany for now, but I'm coming back in 6 months. So it was not as hard. And for me, it's always like my mother's from Bosnia. So I was already used to being always like away from one half of my family. So and we actually are like, we were always driving 10 to 11 hours to Bosnia, and now I'm flying 10 to 11 hours to Namibia. It's just like the difference is just a car or a plane. So for me, it did not make a big difference, because I can still call my family every day. I can still text them every day. And if something happens, that was also back then kind of what Martin and I always said. We're basically just like 24 hours maximum away from each other. So if something happens and we need to be with each other, you can within 24 hours get on a plane, fly back, or to be with that person. So that kind of, for me, is calming my nerves a little bit. But I think like the proper realization just came like right before Christmas, because like us as Germans, we're used to like the cold German, very little snow, but sometimes snow. And I don't know, it's just like, for me, it's definitely a complete different Christmas mood, sitting there on Christmas Eve with your family, eating the very yummy food, and then like unpack your presents and just enjoy the evening together. While here we had like 35 degrees, sunshine throughout the day. Of course, you don't have a normal Christmas tree. We had like one of those thorn bushes, or like those dried trees. So it is different, but it's, so kind of there was a little bit where I kind of got a bit nostalgic and started missing my family. But actually, like on Christmas Day, like that day was actually quite nice. Like that day I was like, okay, I will just enjoy it. It's different because it was already the third Christmas I spent away. But now it was like the second Christmas, like in the years behind, or like 2020 and 21 now. I spent both Christmases in Namibia. So yeah, kind of I called my family just before dinner, and then we quickly talked, and then yeah, everything was fine again, and I think now I'm ready to extend the rest of my stay here until March, and then we'll see. Yeah, so far it's not as bad, but I will see. Maybe I will realize it even more when there's like literally no flight booked, when I don't know if I can go back in like 6 months or maybe just 2 years. So it's very, very different. So
Yeah, I understand. I mean, as you've mentioned, at least you have a flight ticket back home, so you know already when you're going to see your family again. And there are just like so many things obviously you still have to get used to, especially when it comes to holidays or those days you're supposed to celebrate with your family back home. And yeah, and they're just missing out. And I mean, we had the same experience, or I had the same experience when celebrating Christmas here in Argentina, that it's just different. It's also hot here. It's summer right now, you know, and in Germany, obviously, you have all the heavy food like potatoes, like almost everything with potatoes, at least in my family, and red kale and stuff like this, like very, very heavy winter food. And then here was just so hot that I barely couldn't eat. Like I was like, give me a salad and I'm happy, you know. And then also what I think it's very interesting that you don't have a Christmas tree in Namibia either, like the typical German Christmas tree. I have to show you ours. It's like, I will not get used to it. Wait a second. It's so, okay, obviously the people who are listening to the podcast right now, they can't see it, but here on YouTube, I'm just holding the little Christmas tree we had here into the camera, and you see, it's a fake Christmas tree, obviously. It's super ugly, so it's not so beautiful. And we got it as a gift from Nacho's mom. So I really appreciate it, but like having such a Christmas tree, or actually, obviously a little bit bigger than this, is typical for Argentina because you don't have Christmas trees here. So
yeah, like we also had a very small fake one. Was like not even, was like 80 centimeters, 90 centimeters. But it was nice. Like we also got like the Christmas decorations and some lights and stuff. And Martin's family, actually, they have like a very big fake Christmas tree. And a lot of people have them to still get like the Christmas mood, I guess. So that's also very, very nice. But yeah, we had burgers for Christmas dinner. So
yeah,
I never had burgers before. Like usually what do you like? You eat like duck or like a very nice like chicken, or like the beef, like the roasted beef or something, what we like usually eat in Germany. But no, we had burgers. It was still very, very nice. Yeah. So because of course most people here, they actually like the barbecuing is called braai here. So most people, they will just barbecue and enjoy that with the family because it's nice and easy. You can sit outside and enjoy still the nature a little bit. So it is different. Yeah, but his family actually, they made an advent calendar for me. So
that's so cute.
2020, in 2020, I was actually supposed to just stay for a month during October. But like with everything going on, and because I didn't know when I can come back, I decided to stay for the full 3 months I was allowed to. And then actually my sister and my best friend, they sent me an advent calendar back then, but it never arrived in time. I think it arrived after I already left back to Germany. So when I got here this year, or like in 21, they were like, okay, we need to build an advent calendar, because an advent calendar here is kind of more for the small kids, to make them very like, to cheer them up for Christmas holidays and stuff. But I think like in Germany, a lot of people have advent calendars. Like I don't even know one person who don't has one. So yeah, they thought that's a bit weird that like a grown-up person wants an advent calendar, but they actually built me one this year, and they were like a lot of very nice things in it. So, and I had like the one from my sister and my best friend for kind of now this December. So it
Yeah,
arrived late, but I had one for this year, so that was really nice.
that's so cool. Yeah, I see. Like his family is treating you very well. So you're an
Yeah.
actual family member.
Yeah, well, I hope so. It is like it makes it way easier to know that they actually care about you and like try to make you feel at home. I think it would
Yeah.
be like way worse if you not worse, but not I don't think you can feel fully at home or fully comfortable if you don't feel like 100% welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. How was it though when you the first 4 months? I mean, for me it sounds like you adapted quite fast, to be honest. I'm amazed because usually the couples and individuals I've been talking to for the podcast, most of them they struggled a lot when moving abroad. So what did you do, or what advice can you give for everyone who's just closing the distance or who's struggling to adapt, because it seems like everything is going perfectly fine, which is
I
great,
think
so
it's
don't misunderstand me,
yeah,
but it's very
yeah.
rare as well.
Yeah, maybe it seems like everything's like perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not sure like with other couples or with other people, because in the past 4 years I've been to Namibia like 10 times.
Mhm.
So I think I know Namibia quite well now. And what also is like a very big difference maybe to other countries is that um, Namibia was a German colony like very long time ago, and so you still find the German influences. There's still a lot of German people, or German talking people around. In the supermarkets, you can find like big ranges of German products, like not just like hygiene products. You can like literally food. They're importing German food from
Mhm.
all the different brands, and that makes it definitely easier. So I don't know, like I don't think I can give like a good advice to other couples and be like, do this or do that to feel at home or like to adapt faster. I think it's kind of try to visit the place you want to move to as fast as possible.
Mhm.
And I really think like Namibia, or like from Germany to Namibia, was really not that big of a change. Like I think you can get like proper culture shocks to
Mhm.
different or like to other countries.
Mhm.
But I don't think Namibia is one of those things. It might be also different if I would have maybe moved to a farm, because of course, like if you come from a German city, I think like every city over 100,000 citizens is like bigger than the capital city Windhoek. So
Mhm.
so I think like if you come from a city and then move to a farm, which is literally out in nowhere, that might be very different. But not like for me, it was quite easy to move from my hometown to Windhoek because the sizes are quite similar. I think the number of the population is quite similar. So yeah, got all the German
Mhm.
food I need to. There's always like people coming from Germany who can bring me, I don't know, my favorite chocolate or my favorite noodles or whatever I can't find. So yeah, I would love to give the best advice, but I think I can't.
No, it's totally fine. I just think it's very interesting because if I think, so I've never been to Namibia, but if I think about Namibia of what I think I know, but actually don't know because I didn't investigate too much. But I would have said like this, that there's supposed to be a big culture shock for Germans, and then you're sitting there telling me, oh, actually, you get a lot of German things here. And I feel very comfortable because it's not a big culture shock, which amazes me. And I kind of want to learn a little bit more about the history as well. We have been talking about it just briefly the last time we spoke. But for everyone who's listening and who's watching right now, how is it possible? Like, okay, how do I phrase it? Okay, because you do have a big, like, German cultural background in Namibia. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I can try. I'm definitely not the historian here. I can't tell everything, but some time ago, I really can't tell you like years or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But Namibia was back then Southwest Africa. So if you know, like if you don't know where Namibia is, so South Africa is like the complete south of the African continent, and Namibia is just on the left upper side of that. So that's why it was Southwest Africa. And then so back then it was a German colony, and yeah, like a lot of Germans moved here. Of course, back then it's not by planes. They moved here, like they came with all the ships, and yeah, started colonizing the whole country. Like not always in nice ways. There was a genocide, I think in 1908, or was it 1918? I don't really know. But Germany actually, there was like very big in the news. Was it last year or the year before? Because Germany kind of finally agreed that it was a genocide, and they finally paid like kind of money back to the Namibian government to kind of finally apologize in an official way that this happened. And so yeah, like the Germans always, like, they did not just bring good stuff here. They also brought a lot of bad things. But you can really see, like, Swakopmund is a town at the coast. If you walk through that town, you could literally think that you are at the North Sea somewhere in Germany, or maybe even the Baltic Sea, like in a very small town or something. It looks like a small Germany. And back then, actually, Martin's mother told me that between Swakopmund, which is not like everyone calls it kind of a German town because there's a lot of Germans living there. My step uncle from Germany included, so he moved here like 20 years ago. And between Swakopmund and Walvis Bay is kind of the city where the big port is, and like where all the import-export ships are coming in. Between those two cities, back then, I think it must have been like in the 70s, 80s, before apartheid, you even had to show your passport because Walvis Bay was still part of Germany back then. And that's like what also a lot of people don't know. Like, you were kind of driving into, of course, not Germany because you are still in the Namibian country, but kind of into like, yeah, a German city. And yeah, then in 1990, almost the same time, I think that happened very closely, like linked to South Africa, when Namibia kind of also, or like when the apartheid started and Namibia got independent finally. And but like a lot of Germans stayed, and they're still kind of, it was back, I think up to like 2010, it was still quite easy for Germans to move to Namibia. And so, and like, I just know Germans who fell in love with Namibia. So yeah, maybe it is because there's already so many Germans living, but yeah, I hope I at least could tell a little bit about Namibian history without telling it too wrong. Like, if someone knows better, they need to correct me. I'm definitely not the pro.
I mean, I could have warned you before, but that was just something that, yeah, that came to my head because I always think so. It's quite interesting to learn a little bit more about other cultures and then the history. And like, for example, there's even a German community here in Argentina, which I wasn't aware of. And I've learned a little bit more about that as well. And I just think, like as you said, it's part of history, and it's actually, if you think that way, it's quite messed up that Germany recently kind of apologized by sending some money. I definitely have to read it up because it's actually the first time I'm hearing about it, you know. And I feel like by getting to know other cultures, getting to know other countries, I often feel like it's a puzzle and you just stick pieces together. And like in the end, somehow it's all connected. And yeah, so thank you so much for bringing this up, for explaining a little bit further, and also even for going into detail. And obviously, for everyone who wants to learn more about it, I'm going to find an article, a link for you guys, so you can read it up as well. And I'm definitely going to read it up because I think it's very interesting. So, but this also explains a little bit why you're feeling comfortable in Namibia. I mean, not only because Martin is there, but also because it's not a big culture shock for you, which is great. And that way you don't have to struggle, especially in the beginning. So you can focus on what's important right away, which is obviously like building a life there, like finding friends. I bet you do have plenty of friends already, but basically creating kind of, yeah, an environment you even feel more comfortable in, you know. And I think it's very exciting. So that's in my opinion, that's one of the best parts if you move abroad, that you're actually have to get out there again, you know, and you have to meet people. And I know that you're working a lot right now. I know that you're working on a blog, but we're going to talk about that later. What I would like to know now, before we head into the details of what you're currently doing in Namibia, what the future plans are, when it comes to, because you've mentioned it, nowadays getting the visa in Namibia is not as easy as it used to be in 2010. How did you manage it, may I ask? Like when it comes to paperwork, what is there to consider? Was it difficult? Maybe you can even give advice to someone who has something similar in the plans. I'd like to learn a little bit more about the process of you moving to Namibia.
Okay. Yeah, so it is quite hard to get a visa. The easiest part is definitely like through internships or like unpaid work, because if you do that, like for example, if you want to work in an orphanage or in a kindergarten here, those companies providing that, or those organizations, they can easily give you like a 1 year work visa basically, but that will all be like volunteer work. So Namibia has a very, very high percentage of unemployment, or like a very high unemployment rate. I think it's like at 40% officially. Like you never know what the unofficial numbers are. So there is a lot of poverty. So they kind of have that rule, or like I think it's actually a law, that if you are an employer, that you first need to employ locals before you even consider employing someone from outside of Namibia. So of course there is different work, or like different visa types. I think there is actually none. So even if you would be like, okay, if I have enough money, I don't even need to work here, I don't want to take a job from someone, you can't, because I think they will never consider you as being wealthy enough to just stay here and not work. So like my first advice would always be like, try to find someone who can help you in a legal way. So I went to a lawyer in a visa office because I don't want to take any wrong steps. Like if you do anything wrong, you can be banned from Namibia for at least 5 years. So of course, that is kind of the biggest fear. You don't want that. And I actually have a friend who worked here. She started working as in a kindergarten in Germany, kind of doing her Ausbildung. What I don't know how you translate it to English.
But that's training, like where you basically
a training for like the 2 or 3 years, what you do, or like what you usually do in Germany. And from those 3 years, you need to work for at least 1 year. And she wanted to do half of that year here in Namibia, which she did. So she started working, and but somehow something was messed up with her visa, and then she was here without the visa. And then the Ministry of Home Affairs, that's kind of the ministry who is reliable for all the visa issues, called her, and they were like, you need to leave the country within 48 hours or we will ban you. And of course, because her family, they even have an organization here, she did not want it to be banned for 5 years. So she packed all her stuff, bought the next flight within like 12 hours or something, and left. But since then, every time she enters Namibia, there's still kind of like a pop-up, like just blinking up on the visa officer's screen, that like she kind of, I don't know, like something was wrong, like that she kind of tried to overstay her visa or something. And so every time she gets questioned because of that. And even like now that it's like 3 years ago or like 4 years ago. And so that is kind of my biggest fear always. Like I am kind of ready for that call. So if they call and be like, you need to leave within 48 hours, I will just like throw everything in my bag and leave. Like I don't want to be banned. But like my hope is that with the lawyer, like, because usually you can always like write them a letter and then kind of at least extend it for like those 7 days and see like what's the issue, like why should I need to leave. So there's different visa options. Of course, the first one is the work visa, which I said is most probably not that you won't be applying for that, because I think there's like very, very, very little jobs where they would consider you as like the perfect candidate from a different country, like maybe as an engineer or I think there is definitely a list somewhere online. Like if you kind of research, you would be able to find it. Then there is also investors visa. So that's kind of when you have a lot of money and kind of don't need to work, maybe because you have enough money, but then you need to invest a lot of money into a Namibian company. And like just then they would consider you kind of wanting to stay here to overlook all your investments. And the other ones are definitely kind of through marriage. So you can marry and then get the domicile visa, I think it's called. But that is kind of just linked if you are married. And the other one is because if you're married, that's also a big thing. That's what a friend of mine told me. If you're married and something happens to your partner, so if he kind of dies in a car accident or something, you also just have 48 hours before you need to leave the country. And that's why you don't need it, but you should maybe have it, like that domicile visa, to then still stay in the country, even if something happens to your partner. And the other one is the one we are applying, or like I'm applying now for, is a shareholder visa. A shareholder visa is that I am part of a company. I have my shares of a company and I need to overlook that company here. So it is still kind of like the work visa, just that like the employer does not need to prove why I'm the best one, because I am part of that company. And because Martin has his car rental company and I'm involved in that car rental company literally since the first day. Yeah, that is kind of like, I also started building up that company as well. So yeah, and then you need a lot of paperwork. You need to think about everything beforehand. Before you leave Germany, you need to have everything with birth certificates. You need the police clearances. You need also kind of, what else do you need? Kind of where was your last living address where you were registered? Is there like any job applications, or like not job applications, but kind of what were you working before? What are your how do you say it? Like what did you study? What can you just prove? Everything, like even like your health insurance, like everything should be kind of sorted, and you should have everything with. One of the also most important things, certified copies from passports, IDs, everything. I did not have a certified copy of my passport. Of course, you can certify everything here, but they wanted a certified copy from Germany. So that was kind of the biggest challenge to get that as well. But managed to get it. And yeah, then you kind of basically hand everything in. I think for work visa, you also on top, and for an investor's visa, need a you need to go to a doctor. They need to give you a medical exam, like to sign that you're still healthy. Then you need an X-ray from your lungs, that you don't have tuberculosis or did never had it. Yeah, so everything what you might have needs to be kind of written down and on paper and then handed in. So it is a lot of stress. But yeah, as soon as everything is handed in, you can't do anything more. So my whole visa process, of course, started literally like 3 days after I landed, kind of getting to know what options I have, getting all the paperwork together, which took me about a month. And since beginning of December, everything is handed in, and it's like I can't do anything more than wait. So yeah, as well as of course, because I got here end of September, and you usually just have the 90 days visa, but you have 90 days per year. So I got here end of September.
Okay.
You can extend your visa once a year. And so I extended literally for just that last week in December. And with the new year starting, so when 2022 started, the 90 days start again. So that's also why I kind of also already had the flight booked end of March. So in case something happens, I can leave. Yeah, so you need to kind of keep everything in mind. It is like you need to be very organized for that, to not lose, like if you lose one paper, it's gone. Like yeah, have everything, like never give the originals out of your hands. Like people lose stuff here easily. So even when every time I hand in my passport for like a visa extension or something, I'm so afraid that something gets lost. Or even now, I think just after New Year's in Cape Town, actually the parliament burned down. Of course, it was a parliament, but the amount of paperwork which burned there is like crazy, and that thing is just gone because most of the stuff is not digitalized. So yeah, and most of the things here in Namibia are also not. So yeah, so now I'm waiting, patiently waiting. And yeah, like it's African time, like people might take a bit longer, but like with the lawyer on my side, it's definitely easier, kind of, because she kind of keeps me calm and is kind of reassuring me that everything will work out. Yeah, but like also for kind of an advice, never do anything illegal. Like I would never want to go to jail in Germany already. So I don't think anyone wants to go to jail in Namibia. So yeah, stay with the legal stuff. There is I can tell you many illegal ways. But yeah, like Namibia is kind of trying to get hold of that as well. Kind of in the past, there was, I guess, so many corruption cases that they actually started building an anti-corruption commission. And I read and heard about stories where people got locked up because they tried to pay someone for their visa, and that person just went and told them about it, and then you can get up to 25 years in prison for that.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, as long as you, as you said, as you play by rules, especially your advice of involving a lawyer, because I do feel that legal support is very important.
Yeah,
I know you tend
for
to,
Germans.
yeah, I know you tend to try to do things on your own, and you're like, okay, it's gonna work out. But if you know already that the rules are quite different, in your case, like in Namibia, than most probably anywhere else, you can prepare yourself and go the safe way, and also save a lot of time, a lot of nerves. Obviously, you're going to spend some extra money, but then you prepare the foundation for the long run. And I think that's very important. And I think, or I feel like a lot of people are not really considering this, which is okay. Again, it's money you're spending if you want to go through the process by yourself. But if you're aware of that, this is going to be a very difficult topic. I think it's definitely worth it to save some extra money while you're still living in your home country, and spend that money on the long run, because it's an investment in your future. And thinking back, like when I moved to Miami, so to the US, we contacted legal support as well before we got married, before I moved, and to figure out the ways, like, is there any possibility for me to move to the US without getting married? And I'm just gonna be very transparent here. After all, in our case, because I'm not specialized, I don't have any special skills when it comes to in the work field, we choose somehow the easy way, because in the end it wasn't that dramatic, to be honest. And we also choose to go that way alone, by kind of gathering all the information together, but it wasn't as difficult as it is for Namibia. So we were aware that we'll be able to manage it ourselves, and I wasn't afraid that I might get banned or anything, because what I basically did, I waited for the papers while still living in Germany, and then as soon as I had the visa, I was like, okay, I'll just go for it. And then over there, I waited 3 more months until I got my work visa. So the process was just very different to Namibia. But I think it's very interesting that obviously every country is playing by their own rules. And then I often feel like it also depends on how well organized you are. And I don't know, did you have to go through an interview as well for the visa? Or how was that in your case? No interview.
No interview, not for this one. I know actually that if you want to get married, you need to go for an interview. Like if you as a foreigner want to marry a Namibian, you need to go have an interview, so that they kind of, like to avoid, how do you say it, like to avoid fake relationships or fake marriages, like for people just to be allowed to stay in Namibia. So I know a few friends actually who had to go take that interview, and then after the interview, kind of they decide if you will be allowed to marry a Namibian or not. So if they say no, you're actually not allowed to marry. Yeah, so that's the only interview I know of.
This is the same, actually, and almost the same for the US, because in the interview, even though if you have all the papers, if you took care of everything, if you can prove everything, and I had a folder of 20 pages, and right there, one person right away is deciding if you'll get the visa or not. And I don't know. I mean, I heard stories when it comes to the visa for the US, where people gave the wrong answer or not the answer the interviewer was expecting, you know. And so it was like, so I was very afraid that I might just choose the wrong wording, and my English wasn't perfect at that time either. And then I got interviewed, and it was a thing of 5 minutes. And he handed me back the papers, and he was like, okay. I was like, okay, what?
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay. I was like, what do you mean it's okay? Yeah, your visa is granted. And I looked at him. I was like, taking my papers, just like this? It's granted? He was like, yeah. Or do you want anything else? I'm like, oh no, it's all good, bye.
And then
So
you
I
just
took
and then
off.
you just turn around and run
Like,
before he changes his mind. Yeah, I think I would be the same. No, that's
it
kind of
was so
what you
weird.
don't have to go through. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just the only thing. Like even like when I think about the city council in of my hometown in Germany, you already, if you need something, even just kind of like your passport renewal or like your ID renewal, you always like wait for hours if you don't have an appointment. And like literally they just started an appointment system like 2 years ago, so way behind other cities. And like here you don't have that. Like here you come whenever you want and stand in line. So for my tourist visa renewals, I had to stand in there, of course. Like in 2020 I stood there like 3 times, because the one time I wanted to extend it already right away after I rebooked my flight. And then that woman told me, no, you need to come back. But I was waiting for 3 hours that day in that line to be told, no, I need to come back in like a month. And then the second time had to come back. Then you wait, you hand everything in, and then you leave your passport for like 2 or 3 days there, and then you need to come back again. But like the pickup is easy because then you just go in front of everyone. But now with this one, you need to stand there for hours. Like you need to, like they open at 8. Well, on paper they open at 8, and but you need to get there at like 6 to be like at least one of the first 20 people to get in there, because everything just gets crazy in there. And then you kind of like hand everything in, but then you need to go into another queue to go and pay. With that slip, you need to queue again to hand that in that you paid, so they will start processing everything.
Wow.
So that is crazy. Like that's also why I said I want to use a lawyer, like rather take a little bit more money, because they will have the people to stand in line or they will know which back door they need to use to come, like to become first in line, because you will be standing there literally for the whole day. And like if they have lunchtime at 1, they will close at 1, and then you will stand there for like at least an hour until they open up again. Like even when I had to go and pick up a paper, it was the woman called me and told me the paper is ready, I can come and pick it up. And there was 20 minutes before 1, and I was 5 minutes away. I was like, okay, can I still come? She was like, yeah, just come and pick it up quickly. And the security guard already locked the door, so I kind of had to beg him to let me back in. I kind of showed that I was like on the phone with that woman, and it was like a shit show. But like then like he left me back in like quickly, because I literally put my foot into the door. I was like, I just need that paper. I don't want to come back in like 2 hours again. And then he left me. But like usually you can stand there for like hours and days and just lose your time. So
Yeah.
it's African time. So you need to always consider, like it definitely depends on the country you are moving to. I guess like maybe Asian countries are a bit more efficient on those topics, or like other European countries, but definitely not African countries. Like there you
I
need to
see.
have a lot of patience, and like as a German, you don't have that patience.
No, not really. No, we're not known for being patient.
No,
No,
so
definitely not.
that's actually one of the biggest learnings, kind of to just
Yeah.
relax. Like if they're taking their time, you can also take your time. Like especially like also in the supermarkets, if you need to get somewhere and they see you're in a rush and you need to like when you're also not nice, when you're rude or something, they will even slow down. Like they
On
will make
purpose.
you wait. Yeah. So yeah, just relax. Like it won't help to be there 5 minutes earlier. Like no
Yeah.
one will be angry at you, and like usually you will still be like the first one or like earlier than everyone else. So
Ah, I
it's still
see.
all right.
So right now you're patiently waiting for your work permit, and that basically brings us to the next bigger topic, I think, when it comes to what your plans for the futures are actually. Because we know now you're waiting for the paper. You're going to fly to Germany very soon, hoping that you'll be able to re-enter again. But if we talk like long term, what's going to happen most probably if you could kind of, because I know it's not possible, it would be amazing, but if you could influence the next few months, the next 12 months, how would it look like?
In the next 12 months, well, so of course, like because I'm not allowed to work for any money,
Mhm.
that's why I'm of course starting that website now. So I'm in the process of starting a website and a blog and
Mhm.
kind of a travel consultation part with that website, to because that was back then what I kind of wished for. Of course, you can always go to a travel agency and ask for help, like to to book places or to help you to figure out the best route and stuff. And so we never went to a travel agency, my father and me, but kind of still to have that person by your side who you can ask questions like, what do you think will the weather be like? Do I really need to take or like pack my trekking boots, which you definitely don't need to here in Namibia as a normal tourist? Kind of, so that so I want to kind of stand by the people's side while like preparing the perfect trip to Namibia. So the blog will launch soon. It will launch on the 30th of January. So I really hope that kind of by end of the year, I will have, or like that I've already had like a few clients I could help with like planning their routes and stuff.
Mhm.
And well, I also really hope, because my boyfriend, he has his car rental company, and before COVID, they're like that car rental company was still a very small one compared to like the other big companies here. Um, but it was like working out so perfectly. We had so many tourists. We were like almost booked out for more than a year in advance, like of course for the high
Wow.
seasons, which is really, really, really nice. And I enjoyed working with tourists so much, like because I was always here like during those peak seasons. So I was always helping, like kind of preparing the cars, preparing like food or drinks for the clients, and I just love interacting with them. So of course, like that did not happen very much in the past 2 years, and right now we kind of more renting out like long term to like local companies. It would be really nice to get like the tourists back, because I
Mhm.
just love it. Because for me it's like, yeah, like I came to Namibia for the first time 4 years ago, and so I still know how they feel, like how it is like getting out for the first time out of that plane, taking your car, like your rental car, and just like exploring that country for the first time. It's amazing. So
Mhm.
that's kind of, I really want to go get back to that. And yeah, I hope like that this year's visa issues will also be sorted, because then I will be sorted for at least like 2 years. And yeah, just kind of getting settled, don't having those thoughts anymore about like maybe I need to leave or what will happen kind of tomorrow. um yeah, so I just want to settle, build up kind of a solid income, and be kind of a little bit independent, and yeah, just kind of yeah, like I'm already having a nice routine here. Would just be nice
Mhm.
to have like a nice working routine as well, kind of working a little bit, but then also kind of getting like deeper into like the private routine.
Mhm.
And yeah, we'll see.
This is also, I mean, now that you're mentioning that you're dropping the word routine, it's so great to hear that you do have a routine already. Because I feel like this also helps you to feel much more comfortable. Um, and we're like a little bit off topic, I know, but I'd be interested in what your routine is actually and how you got this routine, because I feel like this is also a very important topic. I definitely would like to talk about, like at least scratching the surface when it comes to how to, yeah, how to create your own comfort zone abroad.
Yeah, because I also think that's also a big issue, like especially when you're not allowed to properly work
You,
for like a company or an
I have been
employer.
there.
Yeah, like because
I
then it's
lost my
always like,
mind.
yeah, exactly. Like your partner is leaving, and then what do? You're alone.
Yeah.
And that's also where I kind of got the, especially like beginning of December. So kind of my my worst time here in Namibia. Not really, but kind of in like looking back in those past 4 months was like beginning of December till mid of December, because I kind of did not had that proper routine. What I had was going to dog school with my dog once a week, because Martin and I, we actually adopted in 2020 we adopted a dog, and then I left for the 9 months, so she did not get any any training at all. She was a
Mhm.
bit very much spoiled by him.
A
So when I
bit
got
very
here,
much.
yeah, when I got here, I was like, okay, well, I need to sign up for dog school. And that already helped a lot, like once a week or like twice a week, going to dog school, starting to train with her. Then there's also, of course, a lot of Germans in that dog school. So it's kind of nice to also get out of the house, do something by yourself, still with your dog, but just you're not reliable, or like you don't rely on your partner. And then kind of that was the first thing. And then what I did from the very first beginning was always, because Martin gets up between like 6:30 and 7, and then he kind of showers and everything. I still stay in bed for like that half an hour, but as soon as he leaves, I get up. Like I don't stay longer in bed. I did that back then when I was still studying. If I did not had any online classes, I was like, well, I can take the morning off. But still, it was like kind of taking the morning off because you will need to work in the afternoon. But now I was like, okay, I need to get up. I need to have that routine, because otherwise, like you said, you will just get crazy. Like you will get lonely. You will have too much time to think about the bad stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just got up. Kind of, there's still like that house is still not kind of completely, like there's still not all the um furniture in, like we don't have like all the like pictures up, like it's still like a process. So kind of doing that a little bit, kind of thinking about what could I start, then kind of still working on the website for the car rental company. Or what kept me very busy, and which Martin did not like very much, was kind of the Instagram, kind of building that up a little bit. Yeah, writing guides or whatever. And that was kind of where the idea for the website developed, where I was like, well, if I do it for the Instagram, then that can just be like an add-on. And then kind of I focus on a website where I can provide with like guides and tips, and maybe like an ebook one day. So that was kind of the first plan, to maybe write an ebook. But then I
Mhm.
kind of decided maybe I should first start small, just with a website, and then kind of
Mhm.
from there can develop into more.
Mhm.
So yeah, like usually then I don't know, like I definitely I love cooking, so I kind of tried also to cook every day. um Went to the supermarket, of course, like then going for walks with the dog, training the dog, even if there was no dog school. In the first 3 months we did a lot of training, which helped her also a lot to develop. um yeah, and still kind of like just being busy. Like I read a lot. I actually took an online course. So kind of just not getting bored, because of course you can always have like a lazy day. I also have that, like where I'm like, nah, like I won't get up now. I will relax a little bit longer, just scroll through Instagram on the couch like
Mm-hmm.
until like 9 or 9:30 in the morning, which is fine. But just I think if you have like just too much time to think, that's where
Yeah.
you can fall in a very dark space. And that's kind of, like I said, happened to me a little bit in the beginning of December, where I was like, well, is that still the right choice? Um, shouldn't I maybe rather go back to Germany and work more, like earn more money, and then just come back? Because literally, like you're starting to buy Christmas presents, and then like all your money is just gone, and then like all the visa
Yeah.
stuff needs to be paid for,
Yeah.
and like money can vanish like it's nothing.
Yeah.
So just, yeah, like even if it's just reading a book, or kind of like I said, an online course, there's also so many online courses you can do in whatever you're interested in. There's like enough things to do. So that is kind of definitely advice what I can give, like in the first few months. If you don't know if you can work or whatever, like try to stay busy. It's actually really nice. So
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah, especially get up, because I struggled with that a lot. It sounds so weird, but it's just like you don't have a reason to get up. So you just chill a little bit longer in bed. Maybe you fall asleep again. And then out of sudden, it's, in my case, seriously, out of my own experience, I'm not embarrassed for it because it was part of my process. I would get up at 1:30 p.m., for example,
Mm,
and then you start the day and you're like, okay, actually, I messed up the whole day already. Like, why did I even get up? Why
yes.
shouldn't I just go back to bed? And it sounds very sad, and it was sad, especially in the first few weeks. And I don't know how I pulled through it. I mean, I know how to, because luckily I also have a partner who's very, very supportive and very understanding, and who knows when to kind of kick my ass. So he did that, which I needed. But yeah, this is why I just wanted to talk a little bit about the topic of the routine. And I feel like
Mm,
I definitely have to do another podcast episode, um, basically just talking about this, because it is important, especially in the beginning, to focus, to have a to-do list, to get out there, to connect with others, to make
yeah.
friends, especially if you're living in a country didn't fall in love with, and you're just there for your partner, which was the case in my case. I wasn't feeling comfortable at all in Miami. But there are so many ways for you to still basically create your own little safe space, and one of the parts is having a routine. So I'm very glad that we talked about that. And as I mentioned, I'm trying to make another episode about it, getting a little bit into detail, because this is nothing you can just scratch on surface, because there's so much more behind it.
Yes, yes. I think
Definitely.
it's also still very important, also kind of for the relationship, like for the partner, because like you
Yeah.
said, you have a very supportive partner, I as well. But sometimes you don't have the very supportive partners, where you kind of need to pull yourself out of there. And then kind of that also, I think, sits very heavily on a relationship, um, if you're kind of not satisfied with your life there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
definitely.
is very
Yeah,
important.
definitely. You're trying to figure out, like, hey, am I the reason? Is my partner the reason I'm not feeling comfortable? Your partner see you suffer, and um, your significant other is just trying to help, but in the end, he or she is helpless, because there is not much you can do. This is something you definitely have to crawl out yourself, more or less. And for example, and I've mentioned it in a previous podcast a long time ago, what helped me a lot is when Nacho basically told me, okay, Tina, right now you're walking way behind me. Like, I'm walking in the front and you're somewhere behind me, and it's okay for now. But you basically need to get your ass up move a little bit forward because I'm here. I'm gonna wait for you. But as soon as you're next to me again, we're gonna move forward together. But I have to make sure that you get here, you know, that we are both walking together again. For now, I'm gonna wait. But and I think that was like this little sentence, you know, that I have no idea like where it came from. But it helped me a lot. It helped me a lot. And literally the next day I got my ass up because I realized, hey, he's right. And that was just like, in the moment, it was a lot for me to take in. But the next day, I totally understand what all this is about, and that he's 1000% right, and that we're actually partners, and we're not supporting each other. Like, we're not only supporting each other, but we're also making sure that we're moving forward the same path, that we are still like moving into the right direction and moving into the goal we set for the both of us, you know. And so I needed that. And thank you so much for sharing your routine with us and for getting a little bit into detail. Obviously, what I do, for sure, I'm going to link your website in the side notes, as well as here in the description of YouTube, and your Instagram as well. So everyone who wants to get in contact with you, they will know where to find you to ask you further questions, or if there's anyone who is going to visit Namibia anytime soon. Now you have a point of contact in Namibia, someone who is going to help you to plan the best route and the greatest adventures, and to get to know Namibia in the most like perfect way, if you could say so. Especially I know it has a lot to offer. I know you felt in love with Namibia. I'm seeing like your Instagram pictures, your description as well, and it's just like so lovely that we were able to connect, that you shared so much with us. I really, really appreciate it. And to somehow to get to an end, I know it has been a lot of different topics we just covered in this episode. But to go back to one of my previous questions, if you think back, is there one specific advice you'd like to give anyone who might even be in a similar situation like you, or who's going through a hard time right now, who's trying to figure out paperwork? We know now, definitely take legal account into consideration. But is there anything else you would like to share for everyone who's watching and everyone who's listening right now?
I think kind of the best advice to give is kind of stick through. Like,
don't freak out.
Yeah, it's always gonna be hard. Like, visa is just like, bureaucracy is never easy, like never ever. But as soon as it's sorted, it will be worth it. Like, for me, it was always like that was kind of also the like the topic, or like the thing what was always kind of in my mind, was like, stick through it, because in the end it will be worth it. And it's kind of up to today, not just visa stuff, also kind of for having a hard time in your long distance relationship. There is a reason why you are in a long distance relationship, of course, most probably because you can't be together right now. But as soon as you got through it, you can be together, and then you made it. So then it's worth it to kind of fight for it, to stick through it, to just don't give up.
Yeah, thank you so much for your advice.
Yeah, thank you.
It was nice having you in this podcast and talk to you in English, even though we're both Germans, which is still kind of weird.
Yeah, it totally is.
But it was really amazing to connect with you on another level, to learn a little bit more about your background story, about your love story, about your future plans. And as mentioned, everything will be linked below in the side notes and in the description. I hope you're going to have a chilled evening now. not too many to-dos. I guess you're gonna chill now a little bit
Yes,
because it's evening over
definitely.
there already. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being my guest today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I really, really enjoyed it.